today I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Mr. Campbell here himself. We don't know each other. This is the very first time I've met this gentleman. Thank you for being on the show. And why don't you start off with telling everybody who you are and what it is that you do, brother?
Thanks a lot, Jebel. I appreciate the opportunity. I have a background as a physical therapist, but I really teach around stress. I teach breathwork as the primary modality of self-regulation and self-reliance. And what I mean by that is instead of people learning to manage stress or avoid stress, we're looking at the problem the wrong way. We need to increase our capacity to deal with stress. And we can do that by actually teaching the body that stress isn't a bad thing. And so I teach a number of different modalities around teaching people how their nervous system works, their physiology, their biomechanics, right? How to drive this thing that we're all in that no one got to use a manual for.
I like that. That's pretty cool. So you basically have the powers, you have the tools to help us really step into our full-blown superpower, right? Like take things over. I like that. So, and how long have you been doing this for? I know you said you have a background in it. How long have you been doing it for?
So I've been a physical therapist for 10 years, and I've been really kind of specializing in breathwork for about 5.
Cool. And you got, all I know, like, by the way, for you guys that are going to be watching this, and when you apply to be on the Hot Seat Show, which all of you guys can do, you can go to the link in the bio. It's completely free. Only thing that we tell information we get about your business is like, hey, this is what's going on in my business, like general areas and kind of where the business is at. So right now, your business is it's not brand new. You guys are doing pretty decent, right? You're making some cash. So you as the CEO, the person who's running this business, what's your issue, man? Like what do we want to solve today?
I think it comes down to 2 things. It's one, kind of client acquisition, or just getting in front of the right people with the right message. I find, even like the word stress. I work with so many CEOs that I'm not stressed, but they sleep like shit. They've got emotional reactivity. They can't regulate their energy. Like, that's stress. You just don't call it stress. So getting in front of people and having the understanding of what I do, helps them with the problems that they face day to day, even if they use a different word. And then I guess the second aspect is really, number of clients, in terms of coming in where I can get on a sales call and I can, turn into a client. That acquisition side and just numbers and volume.
Okay, cool. So, because you're not just starting out, right? Based upon your form that you're not just starting out. How are you currently going about finding people and getting them into your world now? Like, what's that process like? What do you guys have in place now? And why not just keep doing that, I guess?
Yeah, so main thing is kind of outbound on Instagram. Instagram's my big funnel. I've been kind of growing that, and it's effective. Most of my clientele, honestly, is word of mouth. Like 70% of my clientele come from a previous client, and I find that that's all the referral I need is like, oh, I had this problem, and he helped fix it. You've got the same problem. He can probably help you. The thing with Instagram, kind of like outbound messaging, is it takes a lot of my time. I'd rather spend time creating courses, working with clients, doing the back-end deliverables rather than sitting there and messaging 100 people a day, being like, hey, this is what I do, starting the conversation.
Okay. Do you know, it sounds like you're hitting a bottleneck right now with like just your personal output. So like the easiest thing, and maybe other people right now, is like, oh, why don't you just get a team? So do you have an outbound team that does that? Like what's going on there? Why not just tell them, hey, kick it in gear, we need more people?
So I've just started that in the last kind of like 2-3 months, working with outbound appointment setters. I'm just still feel like there's something in me that tells me there's somewhat of a better way and that I haven't cracked the code, because even with the additional 3-4 appointment setters, the quality of the inbound leads that are getting onto a call with me, I still just find I'm like, this isn't really the right person. And maybe that's education on my end of, working with the appointment setters is like, this is exactly who we're looking for. But I also just feel, like the CEO on Facebook isn't putting up the fact that he's stressed, right? He's hiding that because that's really not the front that he's wanting to put out there. So I think a lot of people have this resistance as to like, oh, I don't need help because, I've got it all under control. When really a lot of the people I work with, financial success is really high, but health, is probably taking a beating because they've been working the 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. They're not present at home with their family. Like they're stuck in that work mode. And what I'm trying to teach is like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can be financially successful and you can be healthy as well.
Okay, cool. So I got it. So that's why we're not just going to rely only on outbound Instagram. Totally understand. There is something that I want to teach that I think will start to help. Now, I'm going to dive into this, and I'm going to try to run through it really quick, because obviously you're going to get the recording, you're going to go through it, because I want to kind of cover two things. But there's this first concept that I teach that I call it symptomatic marketing, right? And it touches on exactly what you were talking about, where basically, I'm not sure if for everybody who doesn't know this, by the way, and you may know this, but at any given time in every industry, right, there's people, right, there's people in these buckets, right? So anyone who's going to essentially work is in my market, it falls into 5 buckets. I think one of the mistakes a lot of entrepreneurs, not saying that you're doing this, but a lot of entrepreneurs make is they say, this is who I help. And then in their marketing efforts, they think, well, everyone in this who falls into this category is potentially a lead for me. But that's not necessarily the truth, because people fall into these buckets. So there's 5 different buckets, 1, 2, 3, and we'll do 4, 5, right? And if you start from left to right, like at any given time, right, there's going to be what's called your unaware bucket. Right? These are people who have absolutely no idea about you. They don't have any idea about really the problem that's going on. So there's unaware, there's problem aware, there's solution aware. So after solution aware, or after problem aware, there's solution aware. There's product aware. And then the last one is like this category of essentially people who are like, I would call them like the woke crew, right? They're like most aware, right? And so if you had to pick a group, right? What is the group where you would say, hey, that's the group I want to go to? Like, that's the people I want to market to. Would you say unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, or most aware?
Probably problem aware, because I still think not enough people understand the solution I offer, but a lot of people understand they have a problem. You know, it's like I'm not performing at my peak, whether that's at work or with my family. Like, there's something there that I could be doing better. They maybe don't know what the solution is.
I like that. That you're actually farther along than most people, because most people, when I ask that question, I've asked that question tons of times before. People are like, well, I want the most aware people. Right? And the issue with the most aware people is that they have, these are like, for instance, I used to have a brick and mortar fitness space, right? And I always say, like, the people in the fit that are most aware, they made the worst clients because they had done everything, right? These are the people who had, like, they've been on every diet, they'd, done every workout, they had done it all. And it's like, well, that person was usually the worst type of client to work with because they've done so many different things. It's like it's like information paralysis, right? And so most of the time, too, someone who's most aware has already taken action towards what they believe a solution is, so they don't make good buyers, right? Then there's product aware. Well, just because someone's aware of a problem that they have, like you mentioned, doesn't mean necessarily that they know that the solution I provide or I will prescribe is what's needed. And if they don't know what that specific solution is, so let's say you have allergies, that's a problem, right? Meaning you get runny eyes, itchy nose, like those are problems. The solution is, for you to take some type of allergen, right? Whether it's a nasal spray or X, Y, and Z, but a specific product would be like Claritin, right? Well, if someone's not product aware, or people who are product aware, most entrepreneurs never get to this. Most people don't even know what our products are, and if they are aware of your specific product and haven't taken advantage of it, they're most likely not going to buy anyway, so I don't want to focus on that category. And so we're really left with these last 3. And the problem aware is a pretty good place to start, but the best place to actually start, believe it or not, is the unaware category, right? And so I'm going to deal with both of these, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to explain this concept with you and share with you like some things that we can do high level, and then we'll get into tactical things you can do to start educating these people, because I think you're right, that's a big piece, right? So interestingly enough, right, here's the first thing you have to understand, that what you do and what you offer are 2 very different things. I know that sounds weird, but what you do and what you offer are two very different things. So for instance, let's say I'm a coach, so I offer coaching services. But coaching is not what I do, right? Like, just because I offer coaching services, that isn't what I do. Because what I do, for instance, like when we partner with companies that are doing over $15,000 a month and partner with them to put them in our portfolio company, like what we do with those businesses, we help them generate more money in a single day using our 6-figure day sales system than a lot of times they have all year, because these businesses are usually only doing 6 figures or a couple 6 figures in an entire year. Right? And the reason this is such a big difference, by the way, the reason like what you do and what you offer, you got to go to war with yourself on this, is because like I would put almost all my money, right, that nobody went to bed last night and was asleep and was like, woke up in a cold sweat and was like, oh my God, I need to find a stress coach, right? And not that you call yourself that, but you see what I'm saying? Like nobody wakes up and is like, I need to find a coach for anything. Nobody went to bed and woke up in a cold sweat and said that. Right? But for instance, there was tons, hundreds, the majority of entrepreneurs last night went to sleep. Probably they actually couldn't even go to sleep, but when they finally fell asleep, they woke up and they were stressed and they were frustrated because they've been doing this business thing for a while, right? They've been putting all their time, their energy, their effort into it, and no matter what it is that they seem to try to be doing, their business just won't grow, right? And those people, like, they would love nothing more than for someone to come along and help them fix that problem, right? And so, but they didn't wake up and say, I need a coach. They're fighting and struggling to go to sleep of like, I got bills tomorrow. Like the 1st, it's the 29th. The 1st is coming up. How am I going to like keep the doors open? How are we like, am I going to have to go back to a job? Like that's what is keeping people up at night, right? So the first thing is what I do, what I offer, two very different things. The second thing, though, is this concept of making sure that whenever I speak in my marketing, in my cold outreach, in my organic content, that when I speak to the marketplace, I speak symptomatically, right? And you say, well, symptomatically, what do you mean by that? Well, take a plumber, for instance, right? Like plumbers are excellent at speaking symptomatically. Like, plumbers don't care if you live in Beverly Hills, you live in the hood, residential, commercial. Like, plumbers don't care. Like, if you were to ask somebody, who's the ideal client, the ideal avatar, we like to use that word, right, as entrepreneurs. Who's the ideal avatar for plumbers? Anybody who's got... Yeah, exactly. Anybody who's messed up pipes. Like, they don't care. There's no, like... But we always get, like, I help so-and-so do such and such in 90 days. I don't know why it's always in 90 days, but that's what the gurus tell you, right? If it's 90 days, they're going to fall over you. And so... But plumbers are excellent at this. But here's what's interesting about that. We said messed up pipes. So let's say there's this old lady, and she brushes her teeth at night, and while she turns on the water, her sink fills up with water, right? And it takes like 5 minutes to drain. So she calls a plumber. But what's interesting about that is what she's calling and saying to the plumber is what? Hey, I need you to come out here. I need some help because, like, I think there's something wrong with my sink, right? Maybe she's even saying my sink is clogged, right? Well, what's interesting about that is these are symptoms of a problem. It's not the actual problem. Right, which kind of talks about what you were talking about here. And the reason I make that difference is because what we have to realize is if we talk about these 5 buckets, let's say for every 100 people that we could potentially serve, you're probably going to break down that, like, per people. I'd probably say it's like, the reality is majority are here. So let's go with, like, 70, 20, we got 80, 10, 5, 5. That's the percentages that they really fall into. Majority of people in every market are unaware that there even is a problem with what they're experiencing, right? They know, like, the things you just talked about that they're experiencing, all the ways that stress show up in people's lives. Most people just think, they don't even realize it's a problem yet. They just think this is just the way things are, right? People are like, oh, I've always been an anxious person. Well, someone who's saying something like that, what they are literally saying is, I don't even know, they don't even see it as a problem anymore. This is just who I am. This is just the way things are. There is no other reality outside of this. And so we can start to make aware to the majority of people that, hey, this reality, this thing that you think is just reality, it's not actually supposed to be this way, is actually the best place to start. Here's why. All right, I'm going to give you this quick example scenario. So let's imagine that you're driving home from the grocery store, and on your way home, your car breaks down on the side of the road, and it broke down on the side of the road because your car engine needs oil, right? You're supposed to go get oil change months ago. You forgot. You pushed it off. That engine light's been on, but now your engine's like completely shut down because it needs oil bad, right? And you're like, dang it, right? And you're not going to call a tow truck because everybody knows tow truck takes like 2 to 3 hours. You'd be better off pushing that truck by yourself and getting it somewhere before the tow truck's open, right? But you're like, I just remembered. While I was in the grocery store, I bought some cooking oil, right? Some vegetable oil, some cooking oil, and I'm just put that in the engine. That'll give the car some engine, right? Now, obviously, we laugh because we both know, like, that's a horrible idea. As a matter of fact, for everyone else watching, if you were to do that, you're not making it home. Your car will blow up on the way, and you will be burnt chicken, right? Like, it's all bad for you. But imagine for a minute that you were unaware that there's a specific type of oil that needs to go in an engine because oil is just oil, right? So let's say you're doing that, and I'm a complete stranger. And I see you in the front of your car, and you're cracking open this vegetable oil, and I'm just like, hey, dude, what the heck are you doing? You're like, need some oil. I'm like, dude, do not put that in there. If you put that in there, you're going to be burnt chicken, right? What if I told you that, what's the next thing you would ask me, right? You're on the side of the road, a complete stranger. I'm like, hey, dude, don't put that in there. You can't put that oil in there. If you put that oil in there, you're going to be burnt chicken. What's the next thing you'd ask me?
What oil should I put in there?
Right? What should I put in here? Now, here's what's interesting about this. I'm a complete stranger. You don't know me from Adam, right? There's like no reason for you to trust anything that I say, but you just asked me, what should I put in here? And here's what's even more crazier about it. Whatever oil I tell you next is the exact oil you're going to go get. Without any thought, like second guessing anything. Like you're just going to be like, okay. Isn't that interesting? Right?
It is.
So this is why I always tell entrepreneurs, the best place where your actual low-hanging fruit for your business is actually to start. I would if I had to spend, I really only want to focus on these 2 categories, and I want to spend a lot of my content, energy, and effort over here because we all know that the more someone knows, likes, and trusts us, the more likely I am to do business with it, right? They are to do business with me. Well, I can build instant know, like, and trust with people who are completely unaware. I just proved it with the oil situation. You can be a complete stranger, but if I make you aware that this reality that you exist in, that there is a problem with it, you're going to be like, oh, right? Something psychologically, because you made me aware, I go, well, I trust you for making me aware. You have to be knowledgeable about this. And so I'm going to ask you, what should I do next? And whatever you tell me next, I'll put it in. Right? So, this is the power of speaking symptomatically. Symptomatically in your introductions, in your content, in your marketing. And when you start taking on this concept, you're able to look at your funnel a little bit differently because everyone's trying to find, a lot of times, people who are so close to the hole, people who, like you were saying, or maybe they're looking at stress or they realize stress is showing up this way. But usually if someone has already gotten that far to realizing that stress is affecting them that way, they're already doing something about it. Even if that means, by the way, doing nothing about it. Right? Like that, and that sounds weird, but I know you get that. And so,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I understand that. So what does that look like and how do we tactically use it? Okay, so let me give you an example, by the way, of symptomatic, of what I call a symptomatic elevator pitch, right? So I used to have a symptomatic elevator pitch, and basically I used to be on this social media platform called Clubhouse. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it was like the social media app. And what was really interesting, and this happens at masterminds, and this essentially happens on Instagram and Facebook every day at large, right? But it was really highlighted in this room to me, right? They bring experts on stage, and people introduce themselves during the room. And it was always, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an Instagram coach, and I'm so-and-so, and I'm a marketing coach. And so you start getting down this panel, and you just kind of like, everybody starts to blend together and sounds the same. And so I realized this. I said, what would be interesting if I started using my symptomatic concept here. So I created this symptomatic elevator pitch. So they get to me and they say, Elijah, what about you? And I say, well, to be honest, I'm never quite sure what to call what I do. People are like, who's this dude up here who doesn't know what he does, right? But that was on purpose because it's a pattern interrupt. Because there's a cadence. My name's so-and-so. I help so-and-so do such and such in 90 days. Well, what happens is the brain starts to lull itself to sleep. Like you literally stop paying attention. If I interrupt that cadence, I catch their attention. So then I go, well, I help folks, right, who are tired of wondering, what am I going to do, post, or say to grow my business today, to start having a $100,000 day every single month. And unlike most mentors out there, I guarantee my students results. Right? Now, that was like the general elevator pitch. Now here's what's interesting. Every time I did that, immediately I would start getting messages in my inbox of how do you help people? Because even now, right, when you hear someone say that, you're like, well, how's that happen? Right? There's intrigue. The brain's engaged. So here's why this is so powerful. I'm going to break it down, because if I break this symptomatic piece down, I think you'll be able to use it, and then we'll talk about a tactical strategy for paid ads and organically, which you can do here, right? But let's break this down, right? So in that sentence, the symptomatic part is the piece where instead of saying, hey, I'm a marketing coach, I'm a Facebook ads coach, I'm a X, Y, and Z coach, the issue with that is it's too far down this hole where maybe I don't even realize, maybe I've tried Facebook ads before, and I'm like, oh, we've got something in place there, right? We got a guy who does Facebook ads for us. Those people are X'd out. Maybe I tried Facebook ad and I think they don't work for me, X'd out, right? All these things, right? Like when you're too far down the hole, people are like, right? And then the issue is too, what if there's several of us? Well, he's an Instagram coach. He's an Instagram coach. What's the difference between them? I have no idea. So instead of doing that, I start talking about the symptom, right? Now here's my kind of definition for what a symptom is. The symptom is how the problem that you solve shows up in this person's everyday life. I'll say it again. The symptom, what is a symptom, Elijah? Well, the definition of a symptom is how the problem you solve, it's how that problem shows up. If I just focus on the problems I solve, I'm going to miss majority of the market. I need to get in tune with not just the problem I solve, that's the easy part. How is this problem manifesting itself in these people's everyday lives? And another way I like to ask myself is, what is happening and almost every day, and you want it to be every day if you can. Because if you pick something that's showing up every day, there's this really cool thing psychologically that happens where once I start marketing to you symptomatically, you're either going to be intrigued and reach out to me, which is good, or you're not going to reach out to me. But because I reached out to you symptomatically, every time you experience that symptom, your brain's going to recall that I stopped that specific symptom from happening. Because I didn't tell you a problem I solved, I told you a symptom. Right? So it's like, imagine if you you woke up, and every time you woke up, you bumped your head on the door frame, every day of your life. Well, that's not really a problem, but it's maybe a symptom of something. If that was the exact symptom I said I'd solve, every day that would keep happening, and every day you'd think, man, I remember that one dude said that you're right. And so the cool thing is, this one message keeps working for me long after I'm gone. Because you keep experiencing the symptom, your brain keeps going, hey, there was a solution to this. So the definition of symptom is the problem, how the problem manifests itself. It's how it shows up in this person's everyday life. So I started looking at what I do for entrepreneurs, and I'm like, okay, well, the reality is, here's what's interesting about this. How's this showing up in their everyday life? And I just started thinking about back when I was starting out and things were hard and tough and all those things. And I was like, well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs wake up, right? And maybe you even attest to, you can even relate to this, right? You wake up and like you're an entrepreneur. No one's coming to save you. It's your business. And one of the first things, if not the very first thing of your mind once you're actually awake is like, okay, what do we have to do today? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to post? Like, what are we going to do to like push this thing forward? So what's interesting about that is a lot of entrepreneurs wake up and they think like that. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that Apple, for instance, this $3 trillion company, you think Apple wakes up in the morning and they're like, what are we going to do, post, or say to get some clients today? Right. Not a chance. Not a chance. We go down the list. Any successful company, there's no chance that they start their day that way. So what did that tell me? Right? I said, oh, well, a lot of entrepreneurs are waking up like this, and they think that's the norm. As a matter of fact, there's entrepreneurs who wear that as a badge of honor. Like, I'm the only one who, like, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're thinking that way, because but the reality is, if you're successful in that area, right, of client acquisition, you're not going to ask yourself that. No successful company has a client acquisition system in place is asking themselves that. Because as a matter of fact, when Apple, their company, wakes up, they're not asking what they should do or pay to say. They're looking at how many sales came in while they were sleeping, right? That's like, okay, cool, right? And so the reason that made a difference is because while everybody else is focusing on what am I going to do, post, or say today to grow my business, everybody else who has, like Apple, they can spend their same 24 hours going, how can I get better results for my clients, right? That's retention. And how can I widen the gap between me and my competition? That's why they're the market leader, and the iPhone's the most famous phone on the planet, right? And they're the first $1 trillion market cap company. Now they're the first $3 trillion market cap company. And, like, people are trailing behind them because that's how they get to spend their 24 hours. So what's interesting is that is the symptomatic part, and that gets people's ears to perk up, right? Another way to do this is to use, let's say in DMing, is you could be like, hey, you know how X, Y, and Z, right? If you spend some time and you start looking at, for instance, like this symptom, something that I know is happening almost every day, right? Well, I could create a piece of content, and we're just running through here, obviously, right? But I could create a piece of content. Let's just say I create a video on Reels or TikTok about this same concept, about how you're waking up doing, what am I going to do, post, or say today? And I ask that same question. You think Apple's doing that? Well, instantly, right, the people who are consuming that content are going to realize, like you said, it's like, not a chance. Oh, in other words, it's not a good thing that I'm experiencing this reality. I just became aware, right? I was unaware before, but now I became aware that this reality that I'm experiencing is not a good thing. And now I can't escape that I saw this dude's video, and he said that's what he helps people do. If you wake up and one of the first things you ask yourself is, what am I going to do, post, or say to grow my business today? That's who I help. I help those folks have a $100,000 day. Your brain's going to keep kicking you back to that. So this is the power of symptomatic elevator marketing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. It does.
So I introduced that concept because I think that, one, as we start to dive in here, it'll help you guys clean up whatever your outbound script is, and I don't know what that is right now, right? But I think more importantly, it'll allow you to start creating new content, and that you can be used both organically and paid-wise, right? Because obviously right now, the really cool thing is Instagram and TikTok are in competition, right? And they're trying to push these out, right? And the reach, I mean, I've seen entrepreneurs start from scratch on Instagram Reels, brand new account, and grow to 10, 12, 15,000 followers in, a couple weeks, right? And so I think you have a really unique opportunity. You know the problem you solve. right? And we know that the solution you're going to use is breath work. Now, here's the other thing that we didn't talk about. A lot of people like to lead with, for instance, in your case, breath work is the way that I do this. And I don't think you should hide it, but I don't think that you should lead with it. And the reason is because you don't know what you don't know. And the reality is, when I'm truly in pain, I don't care what the solution is. Right? But before, when people, and so many entrepreneurs do this, I think they lead so much with their thing. I had a coach once tell me they were a subconscious healer. And I'm like, I guarantee, first and foremost, I have no idea what the hell that means. Right? And now, like, again, just the fact that you use the word breath work, the people who know what you mean when you say that are literally not your customer. They can't be. They're already aware.
Or they have their own, preconceived notion as to what they think.
Exactly, right? Like I said, there's only two cases. So either I'm already aware enough and I'm either practicing it or X, Y, and Z, or like we said before, I'm aware of it, but I've decided that ain't it. Like, I'm going to do nothing, right? So instead, what I should start doing is I should start picking this symptom, right? And you can start picking. So would you, of these people that you help, like, are these parents? Are they CEOs? Are they entrepreneurs? Like, what are the majority of these people that you work with? Who are they?
Yeah, it usually falls into two categories. It's the CEO, entrepreneur, like high stress, wealthy, but are recognizing shit. Things are falling apart in my health because I'm putting so much in business. Or it's people that have had the health scare. They had the panic attack, they had the diagnosis, they've got the wake up call of like, oh, I need to look after my stuff because I'm, going the wrong direction. So people either have the scare, the wake up call, and then they realize I need to start making some changes, or they're in the kind of high stress, high stakes, and they're looking for peak performance, and they're looking to, really look for what's outside of just coffee and supplements and nootropics. It's like, what else can I do to perform better?
So here's what I would do. We got to start diving into, you can just pick one of those categories, right? Let's say, for instance, we're starting with the performer who's trying nootropics and coffee and things like that. What's the actual symptom that they're experiencing every day that even has them thinking, I need to take this nootropic, I need this amount of caffeine? What's that, what's the actual thing?
Can't relax. Can't switch off. It's like I've been in the grind state all day, and then I get home and my mind's still racing, my body's still, I can't switch between work and home.
Okay, cool. So now dive deeper, right? Now this is the exercise. This is the part of the exercise that a lot of people don't like to necessarily do. But so they can't switch off, and you said specifically home versus work life, right? Let me ask you this: is the ability to not switch off, is that actually a problem?
If it's got a negative impact on relationships, it's like I can't play with my kids because I'm still stuck in the stressed at work. I got to get the emails done. It's like I'm not actually able to get out of work state and be present with my family or in my relationships because I'm still in the work state.
So this is where we got it, and this is a good piece right here. The reality is, for everybody else watching too, is no. Right? This, just because I can't switch off is not an issue. It's not a problem at all. The real problem, and this is how I work with myself to keep, you're saying, well, how do I know when I've actually found the symptom? Because I can't go deeper anymore. That's when I know I've found the symptom, right? Because can't switch off. That's not necessarily a problem. But like you said, it can be if it's hurting certain relationships. Okay, so then I'd go down and I'd say, okay, well, relationships. And then I would hone in on a specific relationship. Which relationship at home do you want to start with? So let's say the spouse, for instance. So now I go, okay, specifically the spousal relationship. What exactly is happening between them and the spouse? That's what you have to answer. Because, for instance, let's say, because they can't switch off, let's go for a bigger one, right? Let's say in sexual relationships, let's say I'm completely attracted to my wife. I love my wife, but my brain's going so much of work and the X, Y, and Z that when we're alone and like she wants to be intimate, I literally can't get there, right? I'm not there mentally, so physically I can't get there. That's causing her to feel all these things and think like, am I being unfaithful? Am I da 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 da? And we haven't had sex in 3 months, right? Now the stress, like you have to go there because this is the thing that you were talking about when they don't want to say it. Right? But if you start creating content, and let's say, for instance, your elevator pitch was, and I'm not just saying the actual pitch, but let's say a content piece that you put out there was, right? On Reels, on Instagram, you're running ads. Where, let's say the title was, oh man, I'm trying to come up with a good one, but I'll just, because you know where I'm going right now, but like, how to get it up and still please my wife, even though I lost 50K today, right? Like anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Where like, it's not the thing that you're going to get a ton of comments on, but you're going to look at the metrics and you're going to see a bunch of saves. That's how I always know I've hit the symptom. That's where people, because guess what? Now what's going to happen? Like no one's going to be like, oh yeah, dude, me too, right? That's not going to happen on the content. And I do this with clients all the time and they're like, wait, that was like weird. And they start seeing better and better results, even though they may not get as many comments as they want. But we see the saves and the shares go stupid crazy. And they start getting people to reach out to them because we shifted the whole thing to symptomatic marketing. Because now, guess what? I see that content and they watch it. I watch it, right? And then tomorrow, right? Again, I'm coming home. I can't switch off, right? It's date day. We went out to tonight's dinner, da-da-da. Oh, she wants to get in. I couldn't do it again. Now she's crying. And what am I thinking? The whole time I'm like, that fucking dude. That dude is his content, right? And you're going to reach out and you're like, hey, man. Right? This symptomatic piece really works. So that's if we went down the spouse route. You go the same thing with the kids. What actually happened with the kids? I shouted at the kid. And so what happens is you start to create this ecosystem and you can't really run out because you have this symptom, but the symptom has all these ways that it shows up. And the more ways in your content that you show how it's, and we're just on relationships right now, right? Then we went down in relationship and picked a spouse. Okay, well, let's say this one was spouse. And we just did sexual relations. Okay, but there's other things that can happen with their spouse, right? Is there like X, Y, and Z? Kids. What about their family? Or they have siblings, right? I don't know, right? Is there, money things that so you keep going down these lanes, and the more you create content around these, the more people literally drive and will like come up to you. I have a client who we start doing this with, and he just committed to no ads for a year, just putting out symptomatic content, just organically on Instagram. Now, what his outbound really turned into was going and finding, for instance, let's say it was entrepreneurs, and just following and engaging with their content, no call to action or DM, just so that they would get into his eco space. Because he knew the content he was putting out was going to speak to these right people, and people just slowly kept reaching out to him. He did about a little under $300,000 in sales over the course of a year added to his business. No outbound messaging, just directly from the content people reaching out. Right? So I think this is something that you could like really dive into, and it may take a little more work and thought because it is the hard piece. But this symptomatic piece changes everything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Questions on that?
And I think that's, if I look at my content now, it's, this is what I do. This is what, it's a lot more focused on the problem that people already know they have, and maybe they've got their own idea as to what the solution is. So yeah, taking a step back into the more general unaware, I think could be effective.
Here's the other cool thing about this content strategy. So let's just stay organic for a second, since you're already kind of there, right? And we'll talk about, I'll talk about how to translate this into paid ads, because I'll give you, there's a million different ways, but I'll give you what I'd start doing, actionable steps of what I would start doing for you for the next 30 days. Because I promise everybody when they come to the hot seat, we don't just solve our problems. I have to give an actionable plan. So this is what I would do. This is my 30-day plan, right? I would look at, we just talked about, I realized that, okay, really the best thing, based upon the actual data, all of my content should actually switch to unaware content. It should be going and basically yelling at the market and be like, yo, that vegetable oil that you're using in that card right now, that will turn you into burnt chicken, right? Like we just talked about. This symptom that they're experiencing, and try to pick one that they experience every single day. That is a key. Even if you think this one is smaller, start with that one. Because the frequency at which they experience is what's going to push them to you, right? Humans are hardwired to always take more action to remove themselves from pain than to push towards pleasure. So that's why I always look for something that frequently happens, even if it's not a huge thing, even if it's just more of an annoyance. So I would start there, right? And start creating content around that. But first, just like I said, start writing down what those symptoms are, just kind of like we did here. This is the first action step. We talked about, okay, they can't switch off, but like keep drilling down and figure out this problem of not switching off, how does it show up in their relationships? How does it show up in their bank account? How does it show up in their, right? For instance, one of what I was thinking around still family for this one, but away from sex and maybe more towards, okay, maybe I'm making this money, but I can't switch off, because of all these, there's a myriad of reasons that could be. And so I'm making good money, but we don't enjoy the money. I got the family, I got the money. We don't go on a vacation. Like my wife's been asking me to go on vacation next month. I feel like we can't take a vacation. I can't use this money. I can't not go to this mastermind event. I can't not speak at this opportunity. I can't not be right? So you just start creating the, the more you sit there and think, the easier this content will become, and the more. But so I do that, right? Write that list first, and then the next thing I do is, let me rewind for a second. I want to give people a slightly different thing. I want to make sure everyone can get this actionable, not just you. So the first thing I'd say is step number 1. Write out the problems you solve, right? So all the problems that you solve, right? Or you can even look at it this way. All the problems that breath work, right? The practice and art of using breath work. Just write down all the problems it can solve, right? So write that down first. That's the first step. Just grab a sheet of paper, you write all those down. Then, under there, take each problem and write down a list of symptoms for each one of the problems. Right? And remember, the symptoms just how this problem shows up in everyday life. Then, after I write down the symptoms, I would ask myself, and I would write down a list of people who have the most to lose with having this problem. That's the next one. Now, here's what I mean by that. I want to be like, we talked about people are always, they're more motivated, humans are more motivated to remove themselves from some pain than to move towards pleasure. So what I mean by that is, for instance, after I bootstrapped my gym to $500,000 and sold it, we started helping other people in the fitness industry. And I ended up starting a digital marketing agency. This was years back, like 2014, 2015, something like that. Maybe 2016. And I started a digital marketing agency for in the fitness space. And initially we wanted to help everybody, right? But I started asking myself this exact question of who has the most to lose with this problem. And we made a conscious decision to not advertise or speak to fitness trainers and fitness coaches. We wanted specifically gym owners. And the reason was because a gym owner, if you were a gym owner, you had the most to lose because you had to sign a lease, right? That means you PG'd it because it's very hard for you to get a lease, a commercial lease without personal guaranteeing it, which means that your house, your car, something's on the line, right? You have, so that rent is coming out every month. You need the light bill, it's like it's funny, like these trainers would come, it's like, oh, I need some more clients. It's like, you don't even know what the definition. Like I remember, it's like, dude, like rent by itself is $5,000. Like I need $5,000 just to stay in this building. it's like the employees. Okay, well, we got these clients, but I can't service them all. And we got like their families. So they had more to lose in this scenario. So the people who have more to lose, the reason I always want to think specifically about their situations and how it's showing up for them, it allowed us to get much more powerful marketing, but it also helps the sales process later. And this isn't even about the sales conversion piece, right? But it made sales so much easier because people are always willing to pay more for what they see as, are willing to pay more for something that they see as more valuable. Well, what makes it more valuable and what we do as entrepreneurs is the bigger the problem I can solve for you. The more this problem is affecting your everyday life, the more you have at risk to lose by this problem continuing makes it easier when it's like, dude, all I have to do to stop experiencing this, like, what's the price point of feeling like you let down your spouse? You know what I mean? Like, $5K, like for that person, that scenario is like, dude, $5K, and like to get her to stop crying and get her to finally understand, like, no, I'm not cheating on you. No, it's not you, it's me. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like those things that, what's the price? Like, think about that. Like, I'm married. You're coming into the house of hell. Like, if your wife thinks that, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is no peace for you. There's no escape. And for them not to be able to communicate it and to have something where I work with you and I have this tool that I can use to help, like, I have more to lose. My kids. Okay, what if she doesn't believe me and so we separate? Now I'm not seeing my kids. You see what I'm saying? There's more to it. And it's like, oh, dude, 5K, 8K, 10K, all of a sudden becomes easier because of the symptom that I'm speaking to in general. I didn't just say, I hope you feel less stress. Like, right? Because, for instance, I'm sure there's things that you could show me and things that would help me in areas of my life, and I don't resonate with being stressed at all. Stress is not a thing to me, right? Like, there's just stuff that happens, and I deal with it because that's what I'm supposed to do, and we just keep moving on, right? And there's so many people who are in that area where it's like, dude, they need you, but they need you to speak to, because they don't even realize, oh, this thing right here, I don't call that stress. That is stress. When I do X, Y, and Z, I didn't realize that was stress. So that's the first step. After we write down who has the most to lose with this problem, then I would ask, what are their current beliefs, right? Specifically, what are they currently believing about themselves? What are they currently believing about their situation? And what are they currently believing about the potential solutions? Those are like bonuses. If you can get an idea, and you're never going to hit it pinpoint, right? Some of this is just kind of like your gut feeling and testing, but you've also been doing this for a little while, right? So some of it's just going to come from you sitting down and thinking about specific clients too. But like, because the reality is, these people are believing the opposite most times of what you're believing, right? Like, for instance, maybe I said, like, stress is not really a thing to me in the fact that, like, where I'm like, stuff just happens. And yeah, it may be unfortunate and I just deal with it. Okay, maybe that's my belief. You have a separate belief and you have to start communicating that belief. You need to show in your content that even that right there and what I'm believing about that, there's this other side to the coin. You have to do that in your content. Because that's going to start bringing more of those people where they're going to start thinking like, man, maybe he's right. I didn't even think about it like that before. And it's going to start pulling these people back to you, right? So that's like a bonus there. And once you've done those steps, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to use that to write out your new symptomatic elevator pitch. Right? And a symptomatic elevator pitch is simply, I just want it to be like this one-liner. And I'll pause because a lot of times people will ask me, they say, hey, they're like, well, I don't want to narrow who I work with. The cool thing about speaking symptomatically is I don't narrow who I work with at all. Because I can always just pick I just keep putting out symptoms. Right? So one piece of content, I'm not going to resonate with that symptom at all. But I didn't say this is what I do, X, Y, and Z. So I didn't write you off. I'm just like, that symptom doesn't relate to me, right? But then another symptom may hit it on the head for me. So I'm not limiting who I speak to, but what you're going to realize is the Pareto principle, right? 80-20, right? There's like 20% of these symptoms. So like out of 10 symptoms, there's 2 of them who are going to bring you 80% of your clients. Those are the 2 that you need to focus on, majority of your content on, and create your elevator pitch around, right? And that's what can go in your bio, and that's the thing that you're going to repeat in all of your content, right? Let's say you're creating this content about X, Y, and Z symptom, and that's the one that you're going to keep repeating in there, right? And then what I would do from there, now that you have that out, is obviously start creating content, right? Just start creating it consistently. Don't worry about the likes and things like that. I would start tracking shares and saves. Saves are going to be how you know you're hitting it. And what you're going to do is, let's say, because we're going to map out this 30-day plan. So what I would do is for 30 days, I would commit to posting, in this case, we got 4 weeks, so I'd commit to 30 days of posting. I would commit to 1 symptomatic piece of content a day, right? So let's say you're big on Instagram right now, so you're going to do video, right? You're going to do a reel. But I would also take that video and I'd make it an email. I'd make it a Facebook post, right? So put it in different mediums for people to consume the same piece of content. And I would post 1 a day. And now I'll say this. You're going to get people to reach out to you during this 30 days. That's cool. But the purpose of this exercise is not necessarily to get people to reach out. I know that sounds counterintuitive. What I'm trying to see is at the end of 30 days, which piece of content has the most saves and the most shares. Not the most likes or comments, the most saves and shares. Because that's what's going to tell me what really resonated with people. And I'm going to take that piece of content, right? So 1 a day. At the end of 30 days, I'm going to look at all the metrics. I'm looking for the most saves and the most shares. The one that has the most, I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to start running it as an ad. Right? And the ad strategy I would put behind it, you don't have to spend tons. All you would do is I'd go, because Facebook will allow you to run ads to people who engage with your Instagram. Meaning anyone who, yes, follows you, but anyone who maybe doesn't follow you but saved your content, shared your content, is watching a certain amount of it, right? Someone who's DM'd you, send it, any of those things. It'll create a specific audience of people. And you can actually make it for the last year, but I would do it specifically for the last 30 days, right? It's not going to be that large, but let's say even there was 10,000 people, right? If there's 10,000 people in that audience, that's only going to cost you a couple bucks to reach them every single day. So I create an audience of people who engage with my Instagram, and now I'm going to take that piece of content and I'm going to pay to have it consistently show up in their newsfeed. You could set it at $1 a day, but I'd probably say at least $5 a day is going to be a little bit better, right? And the reason this is important, a lot of times people think they always need to go find new people. But the reality is, let's say I only have 1,000 people who follow me on Facebook. When I post, the reality is only 10% max are probably going to see that piece of content from me. And we make the mistake a lot of times of putting out content, and we're like, oh man, it didn't do well. And the reality is most of our people just didn't even see it, right? And so I want to get it out to everybody who is following me. And I also want to get it out to the people who are following me who did see it and remind them. I want to pay to have that content continually show up and do the work for me because it's a good piece of content based upon my engagement records. So why not spend a couple bucks to have that keep sending people back to me, right? That's like a very simple paid strategy I'd put behind it. And after I start seeing some metrics on that, then I take that same piece of content and I would go broader, right? So people who don't already engage with me, for instance, and I would start just targeting those general entrepreneurs and things like that. But now I'm not really gambling. I know that this piece of content resonates because it's brought me people over the last 30 days. And I know it's hitting because people are saving and sharing it, and that would be my strategy for it. for the paid ad side.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, actually. Otherwise, I've like toyed with Facebook ads, but it's really been a swing in the dark. It's just like, is this the right content, or is this the right audience, or is this the right, so this is a lot more specific because you got.
And so here's, this is low cost. Everybody can do this. I forgot to say this, right? So back to your Instagram outbound team, right? Because I don't want to change your strategy, for instance, right? We could talk about a million different strategies, but keeping this all in your same strategy, if you start doing this, here's what's cool about this. On the ad that I run, even to cold traffic to people who don't know me, people are saying, well, are you creating a landing page? Are you doing any of that? No, I would just the video. Let's say it's the Instagram reel. Just the Instagram reel. Exactly how I posted it. That's all that's being sent out. Because what's going to happen is people are going to start watching that video. And Facebook allows me to do something really cool. Let's say this video is a minute long. I can create an audience of people who have watched anywhere from 3 seconds of this video all the way to people who have watched 100% of the video. Right? Well, let's say it's a minute long. If you watch 50% of the video, you resonate with it. There's no way you watch 30 seconds of that reel talking about this very specific symptom. This is why we're doing that, right? This very specific symptom, and you don't resonate with it. So now, when I start spending $5 a day to cold traffic, people are going to see the Instagram reel. Most people are not even going to watch it. That's totally cool. But the people who do watch 50% of it, I can create another audience. It's going to be much smaller. Let's say it's only 5,000 people. Totally fine. These are 5,000 people who resonate with this, right? And what I would do with this audience is then I would create a separate ad, and it can be a call to action, right? And the call to action can be to simply just DM you guys. How you do this is completely up to you. It's whatever resonates with you. But let's say, for instance, you like video, so you get on video and you say, hey, and you could be as like a candid about this as you want, but maybe I get up there and I say, hey, look, so you're seeing this video right now because you resonate with, and I'd re-put the symptom, right? Because, right, you know a little about, or maybe you're struggling with, maybe you're dealing with, or maybe you're confused about, you're frustrated about whatever. Maybe you're frustrated about X, Y, and Z. And I have a way to solve it. And we don't want to get into things here, but I'd really like to have a conversation with you. We've actually helped X, Y, and Z people, just like you, stop this thing from happening, stop from bumping their head every morning when they wake up. And you don't have to do this. Remember, we talked about the beliefs. What are they believing? Maybe they believe all these things that are false. It is not going to take this. It's not going to take this. You don't have to do this. As a matter of fact, we have a simple strategy that we use that doesn't result. That doesn't. You're not. Maybe that person's biggest fear is, I don't want to tell somebody else that I'm feeling this way. You're not going to have to tell anybody. It's something that you can do every single day that only takes 15 minutes a day. That'll over 21 days will help you X, Y, and Z. I don't know, right? If that sounds interesting to you and you want more of the details, just DM me X, Y, and Z. I'll send you a voice note back and we can talk about what that looks like. And the call to action is just a DM, right? Remember, people say, we can't write an ad that specific. Yeah, I can, because this ad's not going out to everybody. Remember, I started with this piece of content people engage with, so it's my best piece. Then I'm sending it to people engaged and cold traffic, and then I'm creating a separate audience of people who watch 50%, for instance, of this 1-minute video. You watch 30 seconds of that video of that specific, you resonate with it or know someone who does. So now I can talk to you that specific, and those people are going to go right into your DMs. Those people who like, those people who comment, those people who like to share on that piece of content, you guys can cold outreach and be like, hey, and whatever offer and frame you're using is going to start converting even higher. So that's the strategy I use.
Love it, man. I'm going to put it into play.
I love it. Yeah. Is that helpful?
Definitely.
Any questions on any of that? I know it was a lot.
Honestly, not really. You laid it out like very simple to understand, and like what actionable steps first. So do the 30 days, find the content that resonates. And then like, you know, there's step-by-step filter down into the, like, it makes a lot of sense when you get to the end step, you know, but without the prior 10 steps, then it's like, yeah, it is ultra specific, but you can get ultra specific because you've done the data, like you got the data.
Sweet. So that's it, man. That's the plan. That's what I do for the next 30 days. I'd love to hear, we'd love to have you back on, check in with you maybe end of September, see how the play's been executing, see what your results are. Like I said, hopefully that serves you. For all of you guys watching as well, if you're wondering, if you're like, man, that was absolutely amazing. How can I get more? How can I get this done for business? There's 3 ways we work with people in their business. We would love to have you on the show. So if you go to thehotseat.show, the link will be below in the description. You can go, you can sign up and apply to be on the show. It's completely free, right? That's one way. And you can come on here and I will solve your business biggest roadblock. The second way is I have a mentorship that I put together for entrepreneurs. It's $299 a month. That's it. No contract. It's $299 a month. All you do in this mentorship is you join the mentorship. You get direct access to me via Telegram. And once a month, I hold a live Zoom workshop where I teach a strategy that I've used for either myself or my students or my clients' businesses over the last 11 years, and I teach you the strategy over on Zoom. I answer all of your questions about it, and I give you the recordings to it. And when you join, you get access to all the previous trainings that we've done. It's $299 a month. And then the third way is if you're doing above $10,000, so usually about that $15,000 a month mark, and you're an entrepreneur, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're an agency owner, and you'd love to get to 100K months plus, I'd love to have you apply to be one of our partner companies where it costs no money. We partner up. You get to use my 6-figure day sales system. We copy and paste it into your business, and you pay me out of the profits. Those are the 3 ways to work with me. Regardless of whether you take any of those or not, please keep watching this show. I truly believe it's going to become one of the biggest libraries for actionable business content that will take your business to the next level.
Well, I appreciate your time, Elijah. Thanks
Absolutely, brother. Anytime. And I will see you guys on the next episode.